Teton National Park in Wyoming are now closed to the public as a dangerous fissure has opened.
Recent eruptions have some wondering if the giant is awakening.
This goes beyond any natural disaster movie we've ever seen.
America has been waiting for the end of the super volcanic eruption at Yellowstone National Park. At 9:17 a.m. local time, the eruption column began to collapse.
Ocurrida en el Parque Nacional de Yellowstone, Wyoming, Estados Unidos, parece haber llegado a su fin.
这是整个火山爆发当中具有关键性的转折点。
We end here tonight with a sleeping giant, an ancient super volcano beneath Yellowstone National Park. It has been snoring for thousands of years, exhaling through the park's famous geysers.
There's this 100-foot horizontal crack along a rock wall at Grand Teton. It emerged recently, and park officials fear it may be connected to the supervolcano located nearby. Experts say this fissure poses a number of dangers to humans in the area. Fears it may continue to crack, possibly create a rock slide, just to name a few, due to the very active grounds there at Yellowstone.
How serious is this fissure? Well, it's pretty damn serious. It opened up. There was several seismic tremors in the area during that time. A 2.5 and a 2.7. The tectonic strains there in Yellowstone was noted. It's been hush-hush by the U.S. Geological Survey. Well, I work for a team that has direct access to the seismic monitors there in Yellowstone. When all this took place in Teton Pass, they went up there to investigate because people were saying, you know, the road is buckled, there's places the road has disappeared. They got up there and they found a 700 and something foot long rip into the side of the mountain. Part of the mountain had slid down. There was gases being noted, and you got to remember, these are toxic, very lethal gases. Sulfuric dioxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen. The smell of methane was in the area. And it was shut down by the U.S. Geological Survey.
A planetary alignment that begins on July 19th. All 8 planets are going to be on one side of the sun. According to many scientists or researchers, this is a very, very unique, rare occurrence. All planets are going to be on one side of the sun, on one side of the solar system. All 8. Now, one detail I'd like to bring to everybody's attention about the importance of this is that, remember, a huge part of the asteroid cluster gathers in between Earth and Mars, and all the planets are gathering on one side of the sun. And so, if you can imagine the gravitational pull bringing everything towards one side of the solar system.
Scientists at NASA are now trying to prevent future events, which they say may just be the only way to save the human race. Supervolcanic eruptions have had some devastating effects on our planet and all those on it. Therefore, experts at NASA are working on some risky strategies to prevent one from happening, since we may be on the brink of one erupting very soon.
A geyser that is usually dormant has shot off over and over again.
Steamboat has erupted 9 times in 3 months. Prior to that, it erupted just 10 times in 27 years.
This super volcano could erupt much faster than anyone thought. Now, I can tell you, this summer I was in a convention actually listening to a climatologist, an oceanologist. He was both. who'd worked for Jacques Cousteau, remember him? And he said that the supervolcano at Yellowstone National Park, he said it's not a question of if it's going to erupt, but when it's going to erupt. Because he said it is going to erupt.
The long belief of a dormant Yellowstone supervolcano in the American West has a different history than we previously thought. According to a new study by Virginia Tech geologists, scientists are finding out now that Yellowstone could be now in the early stages of a major, I say major, eruption.
There's a report just now published at Yahoo News. It says Yellowstone supervolcano could erupt much faster than anyone thought. There's a dangerous giant sitting dormant in the United States. But I don't think it's dormant no more, folks. It just broke the record for number of earthquakes than in a short period of time. I mean, it's over 2,500 earthquakes since June the 12th.
Been pretty active there at Yellowstone with what they call, that's scientific terms, blobs of magma coming in. Lots of earthquakes, drum beats. Look at that. The thumbnails are showing the blobs of magma coming in, Little West Thumb, Lake Butte, Parker Peak, the promontory. Now this is on the east side of the caldera. We've been seeing activity. And look at all the earthquakes. This is Maple Creek. The red is what the computer picks up. The geologists are supposed to come in and coordinate its location and the magnitude. Here we have Holmes Hill. Moose Creek, Idaho, picking up all kinds of activity.
While it's long been thought of any hint of a possible eruption would be seen thousands and thousands of years in advance, new research has thrown this into somewhere maybe within little as a decade. There's no question it's alive. It's alive and it's well. And it's earthquakes and the magma is moving and rising and the herds of animals are fleeing. And a couple years ago, the roads in the park were melting. There's just no question that this supervolcano has awoken. And the question is, when will it fully erupt?
ICS 214.
This is an official, and the public is not privy to see this. This is for a need-to-know basis. It goes directly to the Department of FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security's supervisors, which in turn they forward it to the United Nations. It says from the fracture now of Teton Ridge of Norris Junction, Wyoming. This fracture is now in the public's eye by the sources of the media. We are not disclosing any more information as needed. We have seen the activity on the rise, and confidentiality must be maintained as prescribed by organizational file 217621, parts A and B. I have parts A and B right here, by the way. It says we cannot be sure with confidence that the following activity will continue as of date, but we must now permanently close down this section of the park until further notice. The request will start immediately and be enforced by the park police and the state police, who will conduct periodically security as prescribed. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, data will be sent to the United Nations for implications of the agenda to be signed by the notable supervisors. Well, we know what the United Nations agenda is. It's called Rex 84.
Right.
And it says right here, all personnel in assigned management areas must be immediately placed on standby status and be placed in the appropriate areas immediately. This is in effect as all supervisors will take charge of the assigned areas. This is going to be a mass casualties event as prescribed by the liaison supervisors of FEMA DHS, a crisis of biblical proportions. I mean, it's written right there. This is a code level or a code 5 level event. Within FEMA and the USGS Geological Survey, there's 5 levels of severity. These areas are the areas that the FEMA has placed their first responders, their National Guard troops. They're moving equipment in there on a daily basis. We've seen the films.
Yellowstone National Park, folks, let's just be honest. Something's going on up there. We've got some information here out of Yellowstone. Let me pull this up where I can see it a little better. Okay, yeah. First, it was the bison running, and I've shared that with you, the bison and the buffalo. First, it was the bison running from Yellowstone. Now that's the elk, and soon probably people. We see the signs. The writing is on the wall. Earthquakes from the west coast are a sign of pressure and movement in the earth headed north and towards a very touchy area from the United States, California and Alaska. Now, both sit on a very dangerous fault line, and if there be a big quake in that region, then be assured that Yellowstone will probably go off as well. That doesn't mean it will, but it could, because it's rising. There's been more and more activity. We've had earthquakes just a little over a week ago, 4.8. Now we see buffalo running away from Yellowstone, bison running down the road, and now elk are seen leaving. It is simply a matter of time before Yellowstone's supervolcano erupts. Experts claim Yellowstone is dormant. However, it is not. The fact is, it's very active, and watching the footage of Old Faithful is like nothing anyone has ever seen before. Smoke is going off all day, as well as a few hard camera shakes. Something's up, folks. Something's up.
The people felt a little tremor that afternoon, a little tremor, and it was noted, but it wasn't an earthquake. The U.S. Geological Survey verified it was not an earthquake. That evening, they heard a loud boom, the sonic boom in the air. This is a village of about 300 to 400 people, as I'm told. The next morning, they walked out to go fishing, and this is how a lot of the people in this village made their living. They fished there. This 145,000 square acre swamp lagoon / lake was gone, completely vanished. All the fishes, the crocodiles, there were some crocodiles that lived in there, everything gone. They found 6, 7, 8, I think 8 fairly large sinkholes that had opened up.
The same energy that causes geysers to blow could spew an ash cloud as far as Chicago and Los Angeles.
Say if it did erupt, would result in a nuclear winter, blocking out sunlight and showering thousands of miles in volcanic ash. It would immediately kill about 87,000 people and render about 2/3 of the United States completely uninhabitable. Now, geologists across the globe are carefully monitoring this, as well as other volcanoes that have been erupting, with the recent eruptions in Hawaii, sending hundreds fleeing for safety there. Many Americans wonder if or when the next Mount St. Helens style eruption may occur. A little bit of history for you. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980 in Washington state. It sent ash and debris more than 80,000 feet up into the air and into the surrounding areas. That killed about 60 people. There were rock slides immediately, and later created the largest landslide ever recorded due to high pressure gas and steam under the earth. Now, that eruption, it was preceded by a series of earthquakes for the next 2 months and numerous steam venting episodes all across that area.
So glass half full, it hasn't happened in 600,000 years.
Yes.
Why would it happen now? Glass half empty, maybe we're overdue.
We might be. You know, the earth has to do something with that pressure.
You what, mate?